But yeah, networking is extremely important with insurance. There's an insurance agency on like every corner out there, and you have to have something that's going to set you apart. And one of the great things about RBI when I first started was in the interview, we talked a lot about relationship building and the importance of that. And I think you can really combine networking with the relationship building because it's more than just connecting with somebody on LinkedIn. You have to really be able to form a relationship with them. So for me, networking goes beyond just, going to an event or going to a meeting. You really have to be building that relationship and fostering it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. This is Sid with the Unbiased Truth Podcast. We are hanging out today with some new people that I've met from RBI Services. RBI Services is an insurance company, correct?
Insurance and accounting.
Insurance and accounting.
Yes.
Oh, you like numbers?
No. I stay out of accounting.
That's right. And I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves so I don't mess up their name since we did just formally meet. Well, go ahead.
I am Danielle Coleman. I am an insurance agent with RBI Services. Definitely not on the accounting side.
Definitely not. And I am Jimmy Comer, co-owner of RBI Services, and I started the insurance side of RBI.
Awesome. And you say you started that in 2018?
Started January 2018.
Nice.
So 5-year anniversary's coming up.
Yeah. So we met kind of through, I think, LinkedIn, right? Did you message me through LinkedIn?
I think it was more on like the Facebook side of things.
It was the Facebook side.
But then I did connect with you on LinkedIn, yes.
Because somebody started a 212 group, right? And for those that don't know, 212 BNI, it's a networking group for business owners and whatnot to try to expand your network. And then I sent Courtney to it because Courtney, she needs to do stuff for marketing and growing the business and talking to people. So I've sent her to. I've visited a couple over time. I was a member of BNI for about 8 months, and then that was when I was by myself, and I was just too busy at that point to continue on. And plus, it was on like Midlothian side of town, and I live in New Kent, so that's a bit of a drive. Courtney's visited a couple, kind of the same thing. She lives closer to Williamsburg side of New Kent. So we felt like that was a good location because there's never been anything like that really in New Kent that I know of, or at least one that succeeded, I guess. I mean, there was one and it was successful. I guess it'd still be there.
That is
so,
true.
So I appreciate you guys coming on just to kind of talk about, first, the way this all kind of came together, and that's through networking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Being small business owners and local and all that fun stuff, just like we are. I just want to talk about the importance of networking and what you guys feel is important and how has it worked for you and what have you done to make it work for you?
Yeah, well, for me, I just started with RBI not too long ago, and one of the things that Jimmy and I spoke on was with insurance, how to get yourself out there. Mm-hmm. So networking is obviously one of those ways. Pretty quickly into starting at RBI, I was introduced to a few people that were starting the network group in New Kent. So I came in right on time. It started a slow start. Really started to see some pickup once we were able to do marketing for it.
Right.
So I was able to bring in people like Courtney to join us, which we're very excited to have her. But yeah, networking is extremely important with insurance. There's an insurance agency on like every corner out there, and you have to have something that's going to set you apart. And one of the great things about RBI when I first started was in the interview, we talked a lot about relationship building and the importance of that. And I think you can really combine networking with the relationship building because it's more than just connecting with somebody on LinkedIn. You have to really be able to form a relationship with them. So for me, networking goes beyond just, going to an event or going to a meeting. You really have to be building that relationship and fostering it.
Yeah, building a relationship style business, it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
And it's exhausting.
A lot of seed planting.
There is. And it's just constant touches and meetings and getting to know people and remembering and connecting and making sure they don't drop off and all that stuff. So it's very fruitful if it's done right. But it's a lot of work And it's also hard that once you get to a certain point, because you do have to shift at some point from a relationship style model to a different style, just because you just can't maintain but so many relationships, right? You still want to, like, I know for me, I still maintain a lot of the early relationships, and we still build new relationships, of course. But you got that foundation, so no matter what, you still have people that still want to come and support you and use you and whatnot. So versus those that never establish any relationships, and then when times get tough, there's nobody around to help support them,
Absolutely.
And then they're trying to figure out what happened to everybody, so you didn't put any effort or time into them and whatnot. So when you first started,
Mhm.
how was it for you? And you said you have a business owner or a co-owner, right?
There's
Co-founder.
two co-owners.
Two co-owners.
So Chris Smith, who started the accounting side of it, and then Tracy Spencer is minority owner. She was actually employee number one. She took a chance with us, and at the end of the first year, to thank her, we gave her a small piece of the business. So,
nice. And if Gordon's going to listen to that, because Gordon tells people he's the longest tenured 360 employee, that will not happen.
Sorry, Gordon. Gordon should have been here today.
He should have been.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But no, so you're talking about relationship. The R in RBI stands for relationship, business, and insurance services. When Chris and I brought this together, what we realized for small businesses, the two of the biggest pains are insurance and the accounting, payroll, tax side.
Yeah.
And what we realized also, we're sitting there and talking. You know where we were talking, don't you?
I would imagine it would be Craigers.
But yeah, we're sitting there and we're talking about the other advantage is that being under the same roof, we can let the other one know if there's the need to maybe reach out to somebody or to contact somebody, or say somebody all of a sudden takes $35,000 out of their account. We might go find out, did you just go buy a new truck?
Right.
Something you want to tell us? So that was a lot of the reason we did it. Early on, what the slogan for us is, it all begins with the relationship, which is very true. I've been in insurance myself personally for 10 years, and I've always been about building those relationships. I told Danielle that's the important thing, that building those relationships with people makes it easier when the conversation's not going to go the way they're going to wish it went.
Yeah.
But if you've already built their trust and they trust you, then when you call and go, you know what, I really wouldn't turn that claim in. For instance, here recently I had a client, air conditioner leaked, messed up the kitchen flooring, messed up the subflooring and all. First thing they call me, okay, let's take a look. And they sent me pictures. I said, well, number one, remember, you're responsible for the first $1,000. I said, your husband can do all this work. I know the client's well enough to know he's pretty handy. She goes, yeah. I said, you may not even break 1,000. I said, right. But even if it's going to cost you $1,200, I probably would not, in this current climate, turn in a claim for a $200 check. Okay, that's why I have you for with the words. And that's part of that's why we build the relationship.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because a lot of times I see, in these Facebook groups, home inspectors, Facebook groups, whatnot, Facebook lawyers and whatnot. Someone will get on there and say, hey, got a phone call from a past client, did an inspection 3 weeks ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago, and they said I missed this, whatever
10 years ago.
Is. It's crazy sometimes. Most of the response, like, hey, look, 10 years ago kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But you'll get every now and then you'll get somebody to say, well, contact your insurance company.
Yeah.
Contact your E&O company. And that doesn't always pan out. That's not always the best advice.
Yeah.
Not that your insurance company shouldn't know what's going on, but if it's a $500 issue, we'll pay $500 to make it go away.
Part of home ownership is you do have repairs you need to do.
Right.
Insurance is not there to take care of the repairs.
Right.
It's for the sudden unexpected.
Yeah.
more the catastrophe. One of my favorite stories to talk about is called a client once and went, "Hey, you have a $30,000 claim?" They went, "What are you talking about?" So we sat there, we dug. And what happened was there was a kitchen fire at the property that they were going to buy. Mm. The realtor was calling it a brand new kitchen. They did. They had it was a beautiful kitchen. That's for sure. But that's, it was something that it's not on the inspector or anything like that. It just, things just pop happen, up. Yeah. And hey, look at that. You have brand new counters and look at those cabinets. Isn't that lovely? So, yeah.
Yeah, those are fun.
It's always fun. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure you got your stories. We have our stories of how that happened.
Yep, yeah. So that's a good segue into what some people will hear insurance and go like, oh, well, what are we going to talk about that? But I think insurance is often misunderstood. I think it's often, like I said, nobody really knows a whole lot about it. And that's where I think people get in trouble, especially businesses, right? So state law says that as a home inspector, I'm required to maintain general liability. Mm-hmm. That's it. I don't need professional or errors and omissions that's
surprising.
Right? I'm not required to be bonded or anything like that, just general liability. So some states, require it, some states don't, whatnot. Some states don't require anything. Yeah. But that's kind of where we are as an industry in Virginia for home inspections. And we are all three. We have general, we have professional, and we are bonded up to $10,000. I think that's like the standard and whatnot. So walk us through some of the differences between those and the importance of having those, Danielle.
I knew you were going to do that.
Well, he looked at you
We'll
first.
start with the general liability.
Well, my specialty at this point is wedding insurance. So if anybody's getting married, please give me a call. So I think that would be more of a Jimmy question.
That's more, okay. So, general liability is just the basic policy all businesses should have. Say when your guys leaves a ladder out and the kid goes trips and breaks a clavicle, then you have coverage for it. Right. Client comes in here, trips, that kind of stuff. Right. So that's what general liability is about. The E&O, I'm glad to hear you have, because that is, we have E&O. Anybody who gives their opinion is the way I put it, should have E&O. So whether it's doctor, lawyer, insurance agent, you guys, realtors, anybody out there giving their opinion should really have that, because maybe you sit there and go, nope, that wall is fine and the soil's fine, whatnot. And, I would just use the actual case I have. I had a client about a year and a half ago buy a house. She called me, it was probably about this time last year. The house was literally coming apart.
Nice.
The not sure who shut their eyes, but when we went out there to take a look at the claim, there was literally bricks piled under the floor to keep the flooring up. Guess what slipped? Cracks large enough that you can see daylight in the foundation. Right. And the house was literally falling apart. Right. And that is one that she looked at me and I said, the best thing you do right now is get a lawyer and let the lawyer take it from here. Is it going to be the realtor that gets held responsible? Is it the inspector? Yeah, I don't know. But insurance is not going to cover something like that. That was a known issue. It was a fault that wasn't sudden, unexpected. Right. So, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get the client to talk to me probably for about 6 months. So I don't know where that's sitting right now. Right. But that is why having that E&O coverage is necessary. And then there's also the one that you forgot to mention, workers' comp.
Yeah.
That's always fun. The state requires you to have workers' comp. Any employer, if you hire a subcontractor, you have to have workers' comp automatically. Or if it's you, the owner, plus 2 employees, you have to have it.
Plus 2 employees. So
Yep.
that's like magic number. So that's interesting because we run into that. You know, we have workman's comp. I had a ghost policy before I had employees because some builders require
Yep.
workman's comp.
To
And
keep you off theirs.
right. And it just make it difficult for clients to get inspections because there's a lot of single inspector companies, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to carry workman's comp. So just because the state requires it doesn't mean that you can't or you shouldn't carry it or you won't have to carry it, because there's going to be times where if you want certain jobs, they're going to require it, right? So even if it's just me, if I want to do certain jobs or work for certain people or whatever, I'm going to have to get it at some point anyways.
I mean, if you get hurt on the job, you're a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's paying the bills?
My wife.
How long do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, not very well.
So, I mean, that's where workers' comp comes in. One of the other things I tell solopreneurs to think about also is a disability policy instead of a workers' comp. It's a little bit more expensive, but that covers you 24/7.
Yeah.
So if you're in a bad car accident on Saturday night, you're hurt, you're going to have coverage. Workers' comp's not going to cover that.
Right.
So that's to help protect solopreneurs. That's just a little bit different way to look at it.
Right.
But that is something the state requires. The state is cracking down on it.
Yeah.
We're seeing workers' comp board sending letters out to a lot of our clients, go improve it.
Yeah.
So we're sending out a lot of deck pages going, there it is, leave them alone.
Interesting.
Because it's a heavy fine. It can
is.
be up to $250 a day for every day without coverage.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Of course, auto insurance. And I mean, it's, people look at it sometimes going, you make me insurance poor. I'm going, but when you need it, aren't you glad it's there?
That's right.
So it's an important part of business. Every now and then I'll get folks going, I can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you got to roll this. It's a business expense.
Right.
If you're a framer, then you work into your pricing what the nails going to be, what the labor is going to be, what the boards are going to be, all that. Well, why aren't you rolling in also? If that policy, say, is $1,200 a year, then $100 a month goes there.
Right.
Then you just need to spread that extra $25 a week.
Yeah.
Spread it into your,
Yeah.
Think long term.
So let's dive into E&O a little bit,
Okay.
because as inspectors and realtors, right, because that's who kind of we target with all this. Realtors, for the most part, my understanding, I don't know a whole lot about what they do, but my understanding is that most brokerages have an EO policy that covers the realtors, right? Like realtors typically don't have their own E&O policies, to where inspectors, we have one for the company, and then like I said, there's a lot of single inspector operators who may or may not, but I don't know of a realtor brokerage or whatnot, or team that really doesn't carry their own E&O.
As they should.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I can tell you, this is a actual personal case. We're talking about how I just purchased a house. I remember they sent the contract over, and the sellers agreed to everything we asked for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sitting there. Where was I sitting at? Gregor's. If I mention Gregor's 3 times, I get a free meal. No, it's sitting there. I'm going, yes, sweet. And about 10 minutes later, my realtor reached back out to me. He goes, hey, man, read this text. The realtor sent something to him, goes, I don't know how that contract got out. It was a signed contract. I don't know how that contract got out, but the price is actually $10,000 more. And they had 2 riding mowers. I wanted the John Deere. They had a Craftsman, and it should have been the Craftsman mower, not the John Deere. Right. And he came back at me. He goes, well, what do you want to do? And I almost texted back, tell them to call their brokerage and get the E&O notification going.
Yeah.
And then I went, I just want this over with. Mm-hmm. And he goes, it's still worth the price that we're going to buy it for. I said, yeah, just get this over with. Yeah. But that is an example. If I really want to dig my heels in, you got a problem. There's a signed contract. Your client signed a contract.
Right.
I don't care how many times I don't know how that happened. Well, you know what? I use DocuSign too. Right. I know how that happened.
Right. So I think you probably either confirm or dispel some myths when it comes to at least inspections and E&O, right? So the way our contracts are written is that, and this is always recommended across the country, is basically limit your liability to the cost of the inspection or a percentage thereof. So for most, it's, you sign this contract, and if we miss anything and you say we missed it and we agree that we missed it, then we'll either refund you the $400 you pay for the inspection, or 1.5 times the inspection fee, or 2 times the inspection fee, whatever the agreement says, right? But we limit our liability. And so I've had realtors call me, and I had this one, she called me and says, hey, what would happen if an inspector missed something? And she was calling me not because I was asking for a friend. I'm really talking about you. I was busy. It was before I had people, and she used somebody else, right? Or a client picked somebody, whatever it was. And come to find out that the inspector missed something substantial, right? Wasn't found until the contractor was there. Like, look at that. That doesn't look good, right? And I told her, honestly, I said, at first I try to, do the whole devil's advocate, because what's really a miss, right? There's a lot of things that could happen, right? Yeah. And she said, no, he admitted to it. So you have an inspector that admitted to this miss. Both the buyer, or now the homeowner, and the inspector both got their own structural engineer came out, and they both agreed, right? Both agreed, they both agreed $20,000, $25,000 worth of issues here, right? It's what it's going to cost to fix this. And the inspector ended up contacting his E&O provider, and the E&O provider sent a letter saying that we will offer you a refund of $500 or whatever it is, take it or leave it kind of deal. That's pretty much where they were at. And that's pretty much where it was left, from my understanding. I didn't do any follow-ups, but that's pretty much. And I told her, I said, honestly, you can talk to an attorney at that point. But from my understanding is you got to figure out whether or not you're actually going to win the case, because my understanding is even if you take it to court, limited liability, you may get a refund. Yeah. So how does that work, and how accurate is that, or how likely are you on a $20,000 issue? Is E&O going to pay out?
That's what you brought up. You said one of my favorite words, lawyer.
Right.
And that's something people forget about with insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody thinks they hear the $500,000 judgment.
Yeah.
But there were also lawyers that had to defend you. Mm-hmm. The company has to defend you. So that's part of what insurance is there for as well. So you said the lawyers kind of went, well, we don't know what's going to happen with this. Yeah. But they didn't have to pay to get that lawyer's opinion.
Right.
So that is part of why that insurance is there. Then it just becomes a lawyer versus lawyer thing. Mm-hmm. Who's better? Right. And I've seen cases go that I went, oh, this is clear cut. Yeah, you're not going to see a penny. And oh yeah, they did. Yeah. And then other times it's like, oh, this is clear cut. Yeah, you're definitely at fault, and nothing gets paid out.
Right.
So lawyers go through a lot of schooling to wiggle a lot is probably the best way to put it. So it's really a case-by-case basis.
Right.
There's not a definite, this is the way it should go.
Right.
And so.
When would you recommend somebody, because there's also a fear of, well, if I contact my insurance company, mm-hmm. they're going to drop me. Even if I'm just calling for advice, right? Because there's home inspection centered insurance companies that have like pre-claims assistance, right? And they'll send out letters and things like that. And basically, they'll review the report, review the claim, and they kind of do a whole lot of work. And then they send out, lawyer letters and all that stuff. Yeah. And they're very, like I said, inspector centered, but overall, there is a fear that, like, if I contact my insurance company, either my premiums are going to go up or that I'm going to get dropped, even if it's just, I've been in business for 10 years, this is my first claim, So what is that? What really happens when people start filing claims?
Well, I feel like I can give a perfect example of that based on what we were talking about at the beginning. to me, in my mind, when you're mentioning like you're calling the 1-800 number or something, you're missing the mark on the beauty of having a local agent.
Right.
I mean, if you have that relationship built with your agent, and you're able to communicate with them, you pick up the phone and give your agent a call, and that's what they're there for.
Right.
You know, building that relationship with the client and building the relationship with your agent allows you to have that conversation about, hey, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not really going to tell you exactly what to do, as
Right.
that's your choice, but you've had that conversation, and we have the opportunity to potentially review your policy with you. There's this sense of easement that can be given
Mm-hmm.
when you have the conversation, instead of just calling that 1-800 number,
Right.
you know, and then
Right.
having to sit on the line and wait, and then you give us you tell what happened, and you're just sitting and waiting to find out exactly what's taking place. So I think, you know, to start off, you know, having that relationship with your local agent. Insurance can be purchased online now. You know, you can just go online and pick a policy based on price point.
Right.
But you know, when something goes wrong, when you've got that issue that takes place, you're missing that one-on-one interaction, and going local and having that relationship is critical, I think, when you have something go wrong.
Yeah, no, you make a great point, especially with the price point, right? Because a lot of people don't understand scopes, right? It's price shopping, right? And it's no different than getting that kitchen remodel, right?
Yeah.
You go out there and, well, this contractor is $15,000 more than this contractor. Well, that's because this contractor included, you know, dumpsters and removal services and demo and buying these stuff and shipping it in, versus this one didn't do any of that, and it's all on you. And then you could be really mad when you just have a yard full of debris because it's not in the scope, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing when you're looking at insurance companies and you're shopping that price, is figuring out what's actually in your policy. You know, what is your deductible, what's your max, all that stuff, you know, what's covered, what's not covered, things like that. So I think that's very important to understand, instead of just price shopping, actually getting into the details of what's being covered.
And it goes back to the relationship. So, you know, if you build that relationship, customers will appreciate that little extra. You know, because one of the things I listen to, you know, I'm a proud Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I listen to millennials. Oh, millennials want to do everything on the phone. Especially the ones closer to Gen X still appreciate that human interaction.
Sure.
But, you know, I recently had a client who lost their mother. And she's like 28 and brother's 25. And that's the typical, hey, I'm going to do everything on the phone.
Yeah.
But yet she appreciated the fact she could come in and sit down and we could talk about the steps of what she needed to do. And we went beyond just insurance. What does she need to do to close the house out?
Right.
What steps are here and there? Because she was pretty much left to her own survival skills.
Right.
And she's going, I haven't had to do this before. Well, come here. Let's talk about it. So, yeah, that's something we encourage you. We want you to call us with the smaller claims. Now, you know, you run a stop sign, you T-bone a car, call the company. That doesn't need a discussion.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you back it out of a parking lot and you bump bumpers with somebody, let's chat.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're upset, but how bad is it?
Right.
Scratches in the bumper could probably be buffed out for a few $100.
Right.
Just go buff it. Don't turn that in.
Right.
You know, because once you pay the deductible, they'll probably not pay anything out, and something that's just as bad as a claim is a zero pay claim.
Right.
You turn in a claim, but nothing gets paid, and there it is.
And that's what I found was fascinating by that example with the inspector and whatnot, you know, because the insurance company, you know, they offered up the refund of $500 or whatever the cost of the inspection was. And, you know, I'm thinking, well, my deductible was like $2,500. So I'm paying you $2,500 to pay somebody else $500.
But they had their lawyers look at it to sit there and see if they can get that. So that's a lot of things happen with insurance that you just don't see.
Right.
I don't see it.
Right.
You know, so that's
yeah. I mean, it's just like anything. There's costs that nobody sees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
and then here's the myth. Everybody thinks insurance companies are rolling in the money.
That's right.
Do they do well? Yeah, but not as well as the oil companies and the banks and this and that. But if a insurance company makes 9 cents on the dollar, so you pay your premium, You pay $1,000. If they keep $90 of that $1,000, they consider it a good year.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how it's a thin margin. It's more like grocery stores,
Right.
than other industries.
Right.
So when we hear of loss ratios of 110, 120%, that means they're paying $1.20 for every dollar they took in. That's not good for anybody because it's coming back. And right now, that's what the insurance industry is facing. Florida, Louisiana, Texas are huge messes right now in the insurance industry, especially Florida.
I saw a post the other day about Florida and
7 companies have pulled out of Florida this
Yes.
year alone. They're starting to have it in Texas and Louisiana. Texas especially. Dallas can't make up his mind. Is it going to be an ice storm capital or is it going to be a dust bowl? Because I was just out there a month ago and it was 105 degrees every day. But, it blows my mind that I saw those videos winter before last where the ice, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch of ice. And, I was watching these big houses because everything in Texas is bigger. I can attest to that. And they didn't know how to take care of stuff. So I saw these $1 million homes that had internal waterfalls because the pipes froze.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They start throwing a little bit, snap. And, hey, look at what you have. You now have a indoor swimming pool where your basement used to be. But it's good stuff. But
new installed pool for selling features.
That's right.
Yeah.
Throw a little salt in there, you're good to go. But no, that's insurance works a very fine edge. I mean, right now, we're watching all rates go up. If we can keep it at 10%, we're happy.
Yeah.
But everybody's going up. And everybody goes, the insurance companies are being greedy. It's like, how much is your house worth now compared to 3 years ago?
Yeah.
How much is that used car that you bought? I bought a Volvo.
Yeah.
June of last year. And I could probably trade it in now for a little bit more than what I bought it for.
Mm-hmm.
I got to find something to drive, but it's still right now the market's just trying to settle down. That's the best way to put it. So
yeah, Florida is interesting because they do, like, home inspectors do 4-point inspections down there for the insurance companies.
Yeah.
And it's really, from my understanding, really no one else does that. And like if it's over, like a roof is over 10 years old,
yep,
you got to replace it. If you want to sell it, you got to replace it because the buyer's insurance company isn't going to insure it.
And I mean, that's Florida typically will have the better roofing material.
Yeah.
So they have the ones that can survive the hurricane winds. But that's how big of a mess it is right now. But, if there are any roofers listening, I apologize. But right now they have a problem where roofers, for a while, they were going through there going, I can get you a new roof.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with the roof, but they would sit there and turn in a claim, and insurance just kind of rolled over at first, and now they're starting to fight back. But it's kind of late now.
Right.
That genie, I'm not sure if they will get that back in the bottle before it's too late.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting down there, and I don't know what all a 4-point entails, but I just know that, like I said, I've seen inspectors say if it's roof's over 10 years, they're not going to inspect it. If they get aluminum wiring or any cloth wire sheathing or anything like that in their electrical panels, they don't.
Well, that's true here in Virginia too. We don't like aluminum.
It's true. Which, you brought that up, and we'll go down this rabbit hole that I wasn't even.
We don't like
on.
Quest Plumbing either.
We wasn't even going to plan on to even cross my mind to go into. So yeah, let's talk about some of that stuff like knob and tube wiring, aluminum wiring.
Man, you're getting really old school now.
Yeah, well, and this because it's I tell people I don't. One part of our job is that we inspect to make sure that the house is insurable and inhabitable, right? That's kind of like a standard line that I tell everybody. But I also, while I'm telling you this stuff, that's our job, I don't tell you, hey, you have polybutylene, but I typically don't say, hey, that's not insurable, right? Because
it's not your job.
Right, and then realtors get mad at us because if we do that, right, because we, kill the deal, as they say. But I've also seen clients who volunteer information to their insurance companies, and I've seen this happen twice. One, they had a polybutylene supply line come in, right, and they volunteer that information, and polybutylene, unless it's leaking, it's not a defect, right? In a real estate transaction, and the insurance company says replace it, or we're not going to insure you. And
that's
so
just
then,
a bomb waiting to go off.
yeah. So then they had to come to this agreement with the sellers to, what do we do? So they ended up splitting the cost of like $7,000 on replacing the supply line, because it was a supply line. You got to dig it up, and then the other one was knob and tube in the city. And it was live, it was a remodeled home, and it was live. And
were they using pennies?
They were not.
Oh, okay.
They were not. And they asked their insurance company, hey, we got this old wiring. And I told them, I said, our recommendation is always to have it evaluated by an electrician, not because it's not considered a safe system anymore, but because we don't have the time as inspectors to inspect every inch of that knob and tube to see if it's been messed with, covered in insulation, all the things you're not supposed to do to it, right? Yeah. We've just identified you have it. It's still live. You want to make sure it's still considered a safe system. So then they took that information and contacted their insurance company and said, hey, look, we got knob and tube. And they said, yeah, well, you ain't going to have that house, if you want us to insure that. So, and I know that there's some companies that will insure
There's some, but the coverage is not that great.
Okay.
Is the best way to put it.
So lunar wiring, knob and tube, polybutylene, Quest, whatever. So how's that process look like on the insurance side when you?
We just have companies that flat out won't write it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to go to what we call the ENS market, excess and surplus.
Okay.
And it very well could be written on Lloyd's of London paper, which it's written.
Yeah.
But your personal liability coverage is not that great, and the medical coverage is not that great, and maybe your property coverage, the house is covered, but it's also going to be a named perils policy. So if it's fire and wind, you're going to probably be okay, but a car drives through the front of the house,
right?
Probably not.
Right.
You better hope that other person has really good insurance. So that's there are people who will write it. It's much more expensive also. Mm-hmm. So in the long run, you're better off replacing the stuff. But it's insurance is just one of those things. Again, if we build a relationship, I think the pain is a little less. Mm-hmm. Danielle heard me say not too long ago, we had a lady call, and she was complaining that her policy that she has currently, the Lizard we'll refer to that company. They went up $50 a month. And I went, let's see what happens. Yeah. And she came back and she went, ooh, look at this record. I went, yeah, that's what I had a feeling. But the other thing I told her, I said, when I hear people like that, always remember somebody who is willing to leave their current agent for $10 a month will leave you for $10 a month.
Exactly.
So we're looking for that long term. We want to know about you. I mean, that's when Danielle was going through the interview process with me. I made that very clear. We're about relationships. I think one of the things that makes RBI unique, there's 10 of us, 5 on each side of the house, and other than Kerst and I, it's all women. And I like way women develop relationships.
Right.
Women tend to want to cultivate that. I mean, I know the one question I asked her during the interview, I said, are you a gatherer or a hunter? And she just kind of pulled back. She goes, nobody's ever asked me that. And I'm like, don't say you're a hunter, because that just tells me you're worried about getting the number on the board and not knowing a thing about that client.
Right.
And I need you to sit there and build a relationship. And she went, I'm a gatherer, and once I have my gathering, then I'll hunt it. I went, I like that. That's even better now.
That's right.
So yeah, that's again, just all goes back to that relationship. I mean, you know how important it is for you with the realtors.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If something's there that might cause an issue with the sale going through, they have to trust that what you're doing, and there's a reason why you're going. No. Yeah. You're not trying to make them lose a sale.
Right. But, right, and that's what we try to tell people. Like it's not we've always approached the inspection as if it was me buying the house, what would I want to know about the house? Because it's a big investment, but it's also to reduce phone calls, it's reduce issues, and that's to me, that's to the realtor, that's to everybody involved. So we're trying to set those expectations and build those relationships. And then that way, if we do 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 deals together and we hit that one that's just a colossal train wreck, we know that that relationship is there. And it's not just me being, what some home inspectors are or some people are or whatever, just trying to blow stuff up just to blow it up. Yeah. It's just because, that perfect storm happened and things happen. Or if we were to get that phone call and say, hey, look, I know you inspected it. I know, things happen, but, they moved in and this is what they found, and they know that we've developed a relationship enough to know that things happen. And we fix it and we move on, and we can still work together and we can still have that trust, and whatnot, that things do happen.
Yeah.
So
you like to sleep at night, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Danielle's heard me say that we're not shortcutting. It's, whereas I thought I was thorough, this young lady is a thorough. And, but I told her, I said, I don't get but a few hours, and those few hours, I want to sleep. I don't want to be staring at the ceiling going,
Yeah.
I wonder if I'm going to get that one snuck through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about protecting the name of the business as well.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, because that's all you have, know, and at some point you're not going to want to do this anymore. It's like at some point I'm not going to want to do this anymore, and that name has to hold value for something.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want to give it away or shut it down. You want to get something out of it. So you've got to build that value, and we've all seen in both industries, your industry, my industry, there's companies that's just kind of like, yeah, that's probably not really worth the contract it's written on, in terms of a sale price or whatnot. So when it comes to back to E&O real quick, when people want to start that process, because this is, and I'm developing a CE class, like home inspection myths, for realtors and whatnot. Because one of the things I've seen constantly in like mastermind groups, a realtor will post on there, hey, client closed on deal, home inspector missed this. What do we do? And there's undoubtedly every single time somebody gets on there and says, we'll just contact their E&O insurance. Well, I don't think that's quite how that works, right? You just can't pick up the phone and just contact their insurance company and demand stuff. So what does that process look like, and who has to initiate it, and where does it go?
So if a realtor is upset with something like that, the first conversation should be with the inspector, and the other realtor.
Right.
What did the other realtor know?
Right.
Because we'll go back to that house. Mm-hmm. There's no way that realtor didn't know some stuff.
Right.
I know the realtors I associate with, I've watched a lot of them. They get up underneath that crawl space. Now, they're not going all the way in because most of them are scared of snakes. But they're going to flash a light around, take a look. Mm-hmm. So these were like bricks all over the place. So that would have been So the heat's probably on that other realtor. Mm-hmm. The heat probably, it's got to be on the inspector because there are obvious misses or, and who told you to miss that?
Well, and that's where it gets fun because a lot of people don't understand, and this is going off assumptions, right? But a lot of people don't realize what the minimum standards for, or standards of practice is what it's called. Yeah. And it's what the law is for that governs what we have to inspect and what we don't have to inspect. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand how little that really is. And because I've gone behind in crawl spaces where I've gotten a report from somebody 2 weeks ago. And the deal fell through for whatever reason, not because of the inspection report. It's never because of the inspection report, according to the list side. And I go in there and I'm like, oh, no, this was on there. But does that report say that they disclaimed the crawl space because they didn't go in there, right? Because you don't have to. It's a confined space. As long as you disclaim that you didn't do it, you don't have to, and you're not liable for anything that's in there because you didn't inspect it and you said that you didn't inspect it, right? So there is some finessing that can go on to say, well, I told you I didn't do it. It's in the report. I said I didn't look in there, so it's not my fault.
So it goes back on the realtor of, I need you to take a look at it.
Right.
Represent your buyer.
Right.
So something along that lines. If I get a call, when it comes to E&O, that's very, to me, not as cut and dry. It's a whole lot of gray. It's a lot of opinion. It goes back to where I will go, all right, here's who you're insured through. Here's the claims number. Here's your policy number. Give them a call. Go ahead and just give them first notice, because they're going to have questions for you that I can't answer. I don't want to get into the middle of that, because they were playing the telephone game.
Yep.
I think he said.
Yep.
Pretty sure she said, that's not something. Then it's my neck out there going, well, you didn't hear me right. And then we kind of step away. And then if there are any problems, that's what I'm there for. Mm-hmm. If the company's dragging their feet, maybe. Right. Or if it's felt like something was missed, then I can call and get an explanation from the adjuster as to what's going on. And we go from there. Right. But, we sell a fair amount, whether, lawyers, we actually have movie makers and musicians. But those are actually fun, because the musicians are like, oh no, I don't need it. It's like, yeah, music, you absolutely need it. As a former one myself, it's like everybody's going to blame you for stealing their lyric or their line. So, but GL auto, that's a little more clear cut, where I can talk to you and go, I take care of this on your own, or let's file a claim. Let's go ahead and protect yourself. So, like I said, that's a little more vague. Workers' comp was the same way. Right. I had one client, his employee tore muscles in his arm. And so I thought this would be a clear-cut case. They're going to pay the medical bills. They're going to pay for the missed labor. Mm-hmm. And come to find out, they paid for the medical bills. They didn't pay for the labor because that employee was not here properly. Yeah. So they went, nope, no wages. Yeah. And so, again, that's where I go, it's not for me to decide. I don't know the whole story. I need you to talk to the adjuster, then y'all go from there. Yeah. Yeah, 12 years in the fire service, workman's comp. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a whole nother animal, but the inspection industry, it's just, you're right. It's never black and white. It's always gray, because there's so many factors. And this is, I often tell people, this is an imperfect profession, even in the perfect conditions, because you can get a phone call saying, hey, my roof's leaking. We just moved in, you missed a leak. And then you go back and you look like, you know what? Minus this last August, because we had a decent amount of rain, but typically, like, well, I did that, when it was 72 or 90 degrees and sunny, 100% humidity, and it hadn't rained in 6 weeks. Yeah. So there was no evidence of a leak at that point, especially if it was a new leak that developed and it just hadn't had time to cause any damage or offer any staining or anything like that. Okay, cool. Probably was there, but the conditions wasn't right for it to show itself. Yeah. While the 3 hours I was there, right? I mean, and then you got, could I get into that part of the crawl space because of the ductwork, or, it's a 120-year-old home that was made for someone that was 4'5", the crawl space, or maybe they were a hoarder or they had, Christmas vacation style decorations in their attic, and I couldn't get anywhere, so there's just a lot of things that go into whether or not, it's legit, or it's just, we give you the most information we can, the best way we can. And sometimes it's just the cost of owning a home. And I've heard, I've talked to enough inspectors where I've realized that each of you have your own style. Right. I've met one inspector here not too long ago. He said, my goal is not to scare you from this house. Right. Well, what does that mean? The inspection I had done recently, I think there was like 14 ticks. Some are like, garage door won't open. Mm-hmm. No, I would have figured that out, but thank you. Yeah. So I think each of you develop your own, and again, it goes back to their relationship. What does the realtor want for their client? Right. Do they know that this is a skittish client and they don't need to know
Yeah.
Well, the garage door won't open. It just needs a new opener.
Right, right.
I was the one I had. I was grateful. There's a wasp nest apparently up in the attic. Yeah, I want that taken care of. And wherever they're coming in from to be sealed up.
Yeah.
Because moving out to Montpelier, moving to the country, squirrels, bats, and everything else go find that crack as well. So let's take care of that. So yeah, when it comes to E&O, we can provide it. We're going to find the best coverage for you. But when it comes to a claim, I personally am going to walk away from it because that's the one that's most likely to become litigious.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Especially, in both real estate and home inspections, combined into one. Like, nobody knows what anybody does, and that's part of the issue. Like, nobody knows what a home inspection is. Nobody knows what a home inspection actually does. Nobody knows what we're supposed to write up, what we don't have to write up, how complicated it can be from buyers to the realtors. And it's funny you mentioned like that skittish client, right? So we'll have realtors, and I tell them, I say that's the worst thing you can ever tell a home inspector is that we have a very particular client who's very detail oriented. That's not telling me to write up less. That's telling me to write up more because I don't want those phone calls later. No. Right? You didn't tell me that the doorknob was loose. Well, so for realtors listening, make sure don't tell us that they want all the, they're skittish and whatnot because we're going to write up everything because I don't want those phone calls later or the threat of a lawsuit later because I, told you that the carpet was bunched up.
The house, the house I'm moving into, it's 15 years old. So there's going to be certain conditions I expect. So I think part of the report said that there was cracks in the front porch. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get a little filler if it's needed. We'll go from there.
Yep.
It's 15 years old.
Yeah.
Let's, so
it's surprising how many, well, it's not surprising anymore, how many people don't understand that things happen to a house,
It's not an insurance world.
That's right.
we get that quite often.
Yeah.
Maintenance on a home?
Yeah,
what?
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. The last question I'll have is, what all do you guys cover? I heard you mention wedding insurance.
Yes.
I've learned about venue insurance recently, like if I was going to go speaker insurance, if I want to do professional speaking, things like that. So what all do you guys cover?
Well, for me specifically, working with special events and wedding insurance right now is, obviously doing all the other things, but that's the specialty currently. I think we hit the pandemic and it opened up the door for a lot of people to think about things that we normally don't think about. While a pandemic isn't covered in the insurance world,
that's right.
There are things that are covered. So when it comes to the shuttering of a business, the boutique where you bought your wedding dress closing, that's something that we would be able to help you with. And of course, there's the different avenues with that as well when it comes to liability and canceling and postponement. So different avenues to help a client find the perfect coverage for them based on how much they're spending on their wedding. But we also do home and auto. We've got a wonderful account manager named Allison who handles all of that. And then we have another account manager named Cassie who can help all things commercial, small business. And I'm getting out there as well and can help y'all find whatever you need. But RBI is all encompassing. If you're starting a small business, if you're an individual owning a home, if you're a small family, large family, we've got you covered from all angles, insurance wise.
Nice. And if people want to get a hold of you guys?
Oh, well, me specifically. You could email me. I'm a Danielle at RBISVCS.com.
Don't let the accountant name the webpage.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then our phone number is 804-677-9516. Our address is in Ashland, but as I tell people, we're like a half mile from Green Top. Because everybody freaks out. Ashland, I'm like, no, it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to get Suzanne's myself. So we're Green Top, half mile away. So we're 10 minutes away from Scott's Addition, Short Pump, and the airport. So
awesome.
We love that location. But yeah, that's, give Danielle a call. Whether you're a homeowner or a small business, she'll take great care of you. And then on the accounting side, I'll mention this real quick. Chris can help you with accounting, taxes, payroll. We have a unique program that if we have your workers' comp and your payroll, if you qualify for the programs, we have pay-as-you-go workers' comp, so you pay each pay period however much salary you paid. So it helps reduce the audit, and we take care of doing that audit reporting and the quarterly reporting and all that good stuff. So
nice.
We're there to help the small businesses take some of the headaches off their plate.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks for waiting as we work through, Courtney not being able to figure out how to do her job.
Well, man, that's a stare.
You get used to them after a while.
Doesn't she have a crawl space go inspect?
No, she refuses to go.
Yeah, but she's more built for it than you are.
I know, right?
I'm just saying.
I'm not signed up for that. I did not sign up for that. Won't sign up for it. Have to pay me like $1,000 to do that.
We got a robot that we'll send in if it's like I said, those old houses that we just can't physically fit in.
Yeah.
And I've told her before that, hey, if it gets stuck, you're the smallest one in the company. That's an expensive piece of equipment, and we just can't leave it
coming
there.
out one way or the other.
That must suck.
You may want to put a fishing line on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right.
Use some heavy, maybe steel line.
That's right.
To make sure it doesn't break.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, and then I'm sure me and Courtney will be seeing you on Thursdays at the 212 meeting.
Sounds good to me. Happy to have y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.